And you wouldn't like that, would ya?
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Kennel with Foxhound. My guest today is one of the most badass ladies in Filipino martial arts and is Pakiti Tertia Nobility. This is Agalon Jade Gaje of PTK Bhutan. Hi, Jade. How's it going?
Good. How is everyone?
Hopefully all is well. By the time this drops, hopefully the world hasn't ended. But anyway, we had a pretty good back and forth going. I felt like it was just time to turn the record on. For those who do not know anything about Pakiti Tertia Kali and maybe your relationship to it, do you want to just kind of give a little background on what's up?
Yeah, well, as my father has been the leading force pioneer in America for our family martial art or system, Pikiti Tertia Kali. He is a descendant of a line of warriors that he was taught by my grandfather, Conrado Tortal, since the age of 6. And the art has been around for about 335 years and passed down by our lineage of the Tortals, Gaje Tortal system. And my cousin, Tuan Ramel Tortal, is a descendant along the Tortal line. And my father taught him since he was 10. My dad put a knife in my hand since I was 4. And every day talked about how it was very important to always learn how to protect the family, protect those that you love. And pretty much the only way is through the blade. Our art has been around many, many years and been, tested and proven, with the colonizers that came to the Philippines. And a lot of our art has been well received around the world because it works. And it's proven that it can, survive after all these years. And but it's a privilege to be a part of it and be, one of the very few matriarchs in the system to continue to pass the line down. On the women's side. So it's not easy being a daughter of a Supreme Grandmaster. You gotta have to have tough skin.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, you've carved yourself out, a little play on words there, a spot in two very male dominated worlds, that being, martial arts in general, as well as the kitchen, the professional kitchen, which is something that, through force of personality alone, I'm sure.
It's not an easy world, though, my blade, cuts in more ways than one, that's for sure. Growing up, my mom always made food from scratch. And when Dad and his students came to our house, they would pretty much ravage the house of everything that because my mom was a good cook.
Yeah,
so at the age of 7, I started helping mom cook. And that camaraderie and love and the ritual of training really, really hard and then coming home to a really good meal or just everybody gathering still continues to this day. And I didn't think my world as a chef really parallels and complements my life in martial arts. It makes sense. Both worlds are very male dominated. So it's nothing that I'm not familiar with dealing, because majority of my friends are men, guys. Grew up as a tomboy. I have very tight, strong-willed women in my life that are very few female friends, but they literally they're a force to be reckoned with. So, and being a female in the chef world is very, 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 very difficult.
Oh, I'm well aware. My own time in the kitchen has has I've never been like, oh, this is a really nice, welcoming and supportive atmosphere.
You have to literally forge a path. You really do.
Mhm.
And it's an energy sense that comes in when you go into a new kitchen, because everybody already has their like regiment, they have their thing,
Mhm.
and it's a power play. Like we
Yeah.
just watched Ratatouille the other day.
Mhm.
If you ever watched Ratatouille, the only female in this fine dining restaurant had to really force her way to be seen because
Mhm.
the world is made for male dominance.
Mhm.
And
Meanwhile,
the
some guy with a rat sitting on his head, driving him like a fucking mech, is like the hero of the story.
which is fantastic because anyone can cook. Remember? Anyone
Mhm.
can cook.
It's true.
But yeah, and the fact that I would walk in and not be a threat or have to over push just push my personality,
Mhm.
it's a nurturing sense that I put in. And it's the same thing in my martial arts life. It is a sense of nurturing. I'd rather my energy calm you down before I have to cut you. Like I'm not going to push something because especially in the I've had I've had pans thrown at me by chefs. I've had like freaking, fruit thrown at me
Mm,
by chefs because they get so mad. They
mm.
like swipe the whole counter with all our prep because they're having a hissy. And I swore I would never do that.
Be that, yeah,
I would
yeah.
swear I would never do that, never lose my cool because there's a knife in my hand.
Hmm. Yeah. These
I,
guys are
I
just having a temper tantrum. You could kill
yeah,
everyone in the kitchen.
I have like immediate consciousness to not get pissed off
Hmm.
at my level because
Mm.
my knives are super super sharp.
Hmm.
And then so I put everything down, I fold when I'm upset, and I walk away
That's good.
because you have to. And it's very 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 misogynistic in most
Hmm.
sense
Hmm.
because they don't expect somebody to come in to tell them what to do, and you can't throw ego at them
Hmm.
because you just have to work with somebody. If they see that you're able to wash your own dishes, you're able to go and throw the trash, no matter what level that you're at, that you work as a team, you push towards it. And I think that's also in martial arts.
Hmm. Oh, for
The
sure.
camaraderie you build with people and the positive connections that you build with people, at that point that you train and you learn, that person will have your back for life.
Hmm.
So in that sense of the realm, it's kind of very, it mirrors each other in
Hmm.
that sense. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean? So it kind of it's nice that both of my worlds are, it's a comfort zone.
For
And now that
sure.
they're merging closer, um because it didn't make sense when I was in my 20s. I was
Right.
getting paid $10 an hour cutting vegetables and washing dishes.
Yeah.
But it was like my wax on, wax off moments,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that's part of training. Your knife skills, the proper
Hmm.
everything while you're doing it is there. Now management comes in and you're good. Management tells you where to put your blade, how to clean
Hmm.
your blade, how to make sure your things are. So it is the same thing as you level up and drill, you do your drills and all your training and your knowledge in the same kind of way. So it's
Hmm.
like, you know, it's actually really a cool um, process. And I
Hmm.
never thought that my worlds would ever meet
Right.
because
It is an interesting kind of dichotomy between the kitchen and the. I mean, we don't. Do you train outside, right? Like. I mean, you'd say the dojo or the gym or whatever, but wherever your training space is, the training space, you know what I mean? Like the difference between the kitchen and the training space and everybody being on a team together. Like we all have our own part. If you're working, you know, the brigade system of a kitchen, for people that don't know, like you're going to have one job. It's not like everybody does everything. You know your spot. Like I make the salads. I'm the fucking dessert guy. I'm the grill man. I'm the this, that, the other thing. You know, you're working on things yourself. If you're on a martial arts team, even a competition team, you got, I'm the heavyweight, this is the lightweight, but we all work together to make things, you know, work. And if one person drops the ball, you know, everybody gets disappointed. It's not necessarily a 1-for-1 because like, if like one guy really fucks up in the kitchen, everybody hears about it. Whereas, you know, on a team, we could all, everybody but one guy is successful. You feel for your teammate, you know?
Yeah. But you know, also
sure.
in the fight sense, when you're training, you don't want a weak point. That's why you train them hard.
Right.
So, and if they're a little bit lax or a little bit behind in their knowledge, what I tell my teams in culinary, help them, pick them up, focus on them. Yeah. And I tell my chefs, all my sous chefs, my garde manger, if you have a habit, like you are acting as the owner of the company, right? The boss of the company, you find your right hand and your left hand. Okay. You find people that complement and mimic you, and you create a belief system for them so that it motivates them. Whatever their talent is. I was mentoring like 9, you know, newly culinary school students. And I was like, look, whenever you go into a kitchen, you pay respect to the chef, you acknowledge them, and you keep your area clean. Those are the 2 things. Same thing in martial arts. You pay respect to the master, you respect to the instructor, and you make sure you clean your space before and after, right? Your dojo, whatever, because it's that time that you're going and focusing, like, I'm going to prepare this food to be delicious and not poison someone.
Yeah.
So,
right.
You know what I mean? And same, you know, you're learning how to protect yourself, but yet you could completely annihilate someone, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's the same realm. And if you think of it as like in Kali, you know, how the God has like what, six arms? You look at your career and everything that you do as your right hand and your left hand. So they have 2 hands each and you have 2 hands. That's 6. So just push forward, delegate to your right, delegate to your left, and you're more powerful that way. You
like
can move mountains.
Triangle symbolism there too. The 3, the power of 3.
I think it's been embedded.
Yeah, that was a little inside Pikiti joke. If you got that one, good for you.
I think, yeah. If you get the power of 3, you definitely would understand. That's how it may be an influence because of my upbringing of why I've always believed doing that in all the jobs that I've ever had and in my management. You find somebody that's strong, that's willing to work and is dedicated to you to execute things and build them up. So same with my students that I'm doing now. Is like, look, you know enough basics. To get to your lock-on level, you need to just instruct. So I let them, I'm not overseeing them. They call me if they need, but you know your abcedario and you know your part of your 64 and you know your footwork. So practice that. It's good practice for you, you know, and everything I do, even teaching my kids, find people in your friend zone that is your right and your left. You can call them your best friend. You can call them whatever it is you want. Just make sure they're solid people that you know that has your back.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when I say that to my mentees, they're like, I never thought of it before. And I was like, you have to build a trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that trust is very difficult to find. But people are human and you just continue finding people. You open yourself up, say hello, say hi,
Right.
and it's all that connection, and you build a really great team ultimately to execute a 700 person wedding on two
Right.
floors at a hotel.
It's making my head hurt right now.
that's, co-
Um,
that, that's kosher on top of it.
ah, it's kosher on top of it. That's a nightmare. It's funny, I think the line from Fight Club about, you get to know somebody when you fight them. I forget exactly the wording of it, but you also really get to know somebody when you work beside them in a kitchen on like a stressful night.
Oh yeah.
When things aren't going good.
Yeah.
That's when you really find out. Because like you were saying about the chefs that throw the temper tantrums and all that stuff. Some guys lean into that shit because it's the old school way. And it's how they're supposed to be. The chef is supposed to come out and do this and that and the other thing when he's angry. And but that's not how most people are going to be successful. And frankly, most chefs don't deserve to act like that. You know what I mean?
No.
Like they're the most accomplished chef that I've personally ever worked with was Paolo Laboa, Solo
Nice.
Italiano in Portland, Maine. If anybody's up in that way, go see Paolo. Tell him Matt sent you. I'm actually going to be going there for my birthday in July when I get to go back east. But Paolo, I never saw Paolo raise. He had a couple moments where maybe he went home. He might have left. But I never saw him belittle, demean, scream, and I maybe raised his voice a couple of times, but if you don't really care. But I never saw any of those really, like, I hate the term toxic, but toxic chef behaviors. Those bad, like, hey man, you're acting like a child, and just because you're in charge doesn't give you the right to treat people like that kind of things. I never saw him do any of that. I could do a whole podcast on Paulo. I won't go crazy on him, but I saw, this is how a good chef and a good manager and a good man runs his kitchen. And then like it was hard to work there. He went through a lot of people, but he would demand it. It was interesting to see with the guys he had to work with, the food that the complexity of the food that he was turning out. It was all so good. The ingredients were great. Everything was so great. But he would say, this is simple food. I can't go beyond this level. And I was like, yeah, okay, Paulo, I'm sure you could do such crazy shit beyond this. Oh, I've been to his new restaurant in Portland. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, you were right, man. This stuff is incredible. Seeing like, he was like, yeah, I can't even, but it's like, if you got a brand new group of guys and you got to teach them the abecedarios and you have to teach them things right out of the box, what good is it to teach them? I mean, it depends on what your purpose is. If you're opening a school to just open a school and have people do kind of things, it's, doing Sinawali and Sambrata and Huba and all that stuff's great. Those are all good skill sets to have. But if you're like, all right, I got to teach a group of guys, a group of people that want to fight or want to learn how to use a practical version of Kali. I think from what I've experienced personally training Pikiti, as well as now in the last 11 years of being in the Dog Brothers, being exposed to other things, out of the box, Pikiti Tersha, from my experience, is what you're most ready to fight with. There's other systems too. I'm not naming more because I'm also not like telling other people their system is crap at this moment, maybe later. But I right out of the box, the motion, the movements, the angles, the footwork of Pikiti is, you're going to be able to spar immediately in a way that is closer to fighting rather than putting on the padded jacket, standing at a completely unrealistic range. Like no one stands there. No one stands there. As soon as the fight starts, no one stands at Medio. Like we're not doing that. It's a bad place to stand.
I'm like, Largo, please.
Yeah.
You don't cut me, please.
Yeah. And then once the close happens,
Yeah.
We're usually at very, very
you're-
corto clinch range. You know,
yeah.
there's not a lot in that
That's where the
because
fight.
that's
That's where
concussion
the
or
fight.
stabbing range.
Yeah. And that, and that's where that's the fight, the fight fit comes in. Like, I'm not here to do katas. I'm not here to teach katas. I'm going to teach you basics and then apply it in sparring.
Right.
Dad always was like, you need to be able to walk away from each class, and if somebody comes in and attacks you, use exactly those things and annihilate them in 3. So focusing on things in, like, the first strike, oh, okay, you got my attention. Second strike, okay, now you're pissing me off. Third strike, no more talking. Like, that's it. So you wrap it up in 3. And that's how I am applying the different elements of PTK as we fight, and going and training with Tuhon Nick and being a part. And I've always been an intimidated fan of the Dog Brothers. So, and the fact that, being able to do the open the last time, I'm like, okay, now I get to train. Now I get to really go. And even Mark Denny messaged me, and he was like, it's nice to see you at a gathering. He's like, your father has been a great influence to me for many, many years. It will be an honor to meet you. And I was like, oh, it'll be such an honor to meet you. I was like, so I'm promising I'm coming to Chicago. I was like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it and trying to encourage some women to join that's in PTK because it's an open. Why not?
Yeah.
Learn how to fight. And
for those who aren't aware, Dog Brothers Open Gathering is anybody can sign up. It's how I started. You just literally register, show up,
and get in there and be ready to fight. And I'm actually getting Airbnb with Shaolin, and I think, what's her name, Ashley,
Danny,
and
Danny.
Dan coming. Yeah.
Yep.
And
and then, Ashley. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's her name.
Yeah, Ashley.
Yep. Yeah. So and then a couple of people I invited that are on the East Coast in Baltimore. So hopefully they'll come out. I'm trying to encourage it. Truly trying to encourage it. So I can't be one of the only females in there, because you guys intimidate me with your concussions and your breaking of fingers, and
I know my hand is like a broken claw at this point. The one finger just flops around. I don't know how clear it is on the video, but you see it just flopping. That shit ain't attached anymore. Day one Dog Brothers. Yeah. Once people see my strong hand, they can never look away. Like, they see it forever, but nobody notices until I point it out. Yeah, that was day one. That was one of those injuries that really makes you consider whether you want to do this ever again or not. Like, whether that was a big mistake.
And how long you've been in it?
Yeah, it was like
how long have you been
a matter of hours at that point. No, I had I flew out to California to fight in that gathering without even doing any real collie. I've been doing some knife stuff and whatever, but I had done no stick fighting other than a little hitting a tire. I found out that a tire was what you hit, so I hung a tire in my backyard. And I just beat on it all summer. And then I showed up there to beat on Toki. He talked enough shit. I don't know if you remember, I don't give a shit, actually. Everybody knows about this. Toki crapped on me online. Like, he needled me hard enough that I was like, you know what, motherfucker? I actually would like to fight you. Like, what's your deal? Oh, dog. All right, man. Yeah, I'll see you there. And I didn't know anything about it. To be honest, I already knew about your father because he was on Fight Quest or one of those shows, and he tortured that crybaby guy, Doug, the guy that like wasn't getting with the program. Now that I know about your dad so much more, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy wasn't getting with the program, so they tormented him. They killed a chicken and were like shaking blood on him, making him kneel with a stick over his head, going, "Collie."
Oh my god,
that was hilarious. But I had seen that. That was all I knew. And I was like, well, they do the knife fighting shit. And I had been involved in a stabbing. So I started learning knife stuff, and I got my National Registry EMT. Just my basic, and I never worked as like a field EMT, but I got the first responder training, got my National Registry, and you know, I've always kept up at least a little bit on that kind of stuff. As far as I'm concerned, if you feel like you would in any possible way want to, you know, be able to take a person down, you should also be able to help.
Yeah,
that's just the way I feel about
yeah,
it. But,
exactly.
But yeah, no, Toki just gave me enough of a
beat down
of a pissing off. Oh no, he didn't do this. Fuck that guy. Yeah, no,
oh
he didn't
okay,
do
so
this.
that's why I
No,
was
no,
like,
no, a gigantic. No, he's tiny. He's tiny. He's a little man, a little chipmunk man. He didn't break my hand. He beat me solidly in our fight. Like I had no idea what I was getting into, and he's a like lifelong Filipino martial artist. No, this guy named AJ Singh, big Sikh dude from Canada, did this. Cool guy. We hung out after all night almost, because he had like a really early in the morning flight and didn't want to go to bed. And I was like 25, so I was like, yeah, let's party all night. We just did this fight thing. It was awesome. But
your
also,
adrenaline was still going.
Oh yeah, man, that the altered space after a gathering, like you're in this. I find it to be a very receptive to learning moments as well for like a few days, because you've just been like, even now, you know, 11 years and I don't know, 20 something gatherings, because I do usually 2 a year. Some years I've done 3. I don't count tribals as 2. Some motherfuckers do. I have no idea how many really, but I still, even, you know, coming home in May, it was like for a day or two after, I was like, whoa, like you look at the world a little bit differently when you've had a stick whipping by your head at 70 miles an hour several times throughout the day.
The reflection from being able to be in an environment like that, especially if you were very conscious about your fight readiness, you really think about, as a martial artist, you think about if you didn't have the gloves or the helmet, that, you know, that's how you have to apply. And when there were things that got you, and like that could have been a blade and your arm's done. So reflecting on the day and after a fight, I think your adrenaline to fix that and be ready propels you to the next gathering. So, you know, to the next, to do better.
Right.
You know, and you have because the conversations I was having, which I am meeting Jer. He's in Atlanta. He moved here, so I'm meeting him and training with him on Monday, which is going to be great. Yeah, and he
That's
also
excellent.
so he talking to him and watching their fights and reviewing all the fights that I recorded during, you know, to understand where everybody's footwork is and what they do, and finding you know, how people react. And even Kuya Ronnie, his footwork, and we were training the footwork like distance, right? And you can gain 3 inches just by turning. And I was trying to do that, but like the pressure of not being able to check distance has always been a challenge of mine. And I'm like, good. And I get so angry, and you can see it in my videos. I'm like, dang it, come here. Come here. So, and you know, there's little things, and I appreciate our Sunday workouts with the Dog Brothers, because it is always to be able to be at that stance, to be ready to fight at any moment. You know, and I'm teaching my students to be really aggressive about being fight ready. You know, it's like, even with the skills that you have now, you do that. And they were very intimidated going into the gathering, and I was like, it is intimidating. You see me they see me fixing, you know, a friggin' big huge gash and carries out.
Yeah, that's right. That happened right off the bat too. If it was your first day, man, seeing somebody with like their entire eyebrow split in 2 with like the bone showing. Meanwhile, he's laughing about it, which is even more unsettling, because Carrie just laughs when you hit him or he gets hurt.
He's just
So,
like, oh, you got
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna fix that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he got hit with a buckler. I think that was what did it. It
Something
hit
metal
him.
when he took off his when he got his helmet off. That's when
Oh, okay. Okay.
something happened.
Yeah.
Because when they were in the clinch.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. The
I was like,
the occasional inner fencing mask facial injury is a thing.
oh,
I know that some people say, well, you're still not really fighting because you have headgear on. Okay, put on my fencing mask and let me hit you real hard one time. Like, yeah, I know I can't break. The fencing mask protects you, for those that aren't aware, from breaking like your eye sockets, your nose, your teeth, your jaw when you get smashed in the head with a rattan stick. The rattan stick, it is not a great lethal weapon, which is why we fucking spar with them. People are like, well, it's like, it's, you get the one camp it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to not have all that padding on. Well, here's the thing about it, and you've touched on this already. You take all that padding off and you have a stick fight with real sticks, and you do absorb a little punishment. And then the next day you think, well, if these were blade strikes, this is where, I have some really bad habits that come directly from I have chosen to pursue, whether you want to call it the sport or whatever, of stick fighting. I fight with a stick. So, I do shit that I know doesn't work with a sword. I will grab your stick. You swing it at me, I'll put my hand out. And if I catch it before the arc and if you don't percussively hit me, I'll just fucking grab it. You can ask Jer about that. There's a great video of me literally doing that to him. I lost my stick. I went, sweet, just grab the end of his. You can't do that with a sword. It'll cut all your fingers off. So yes, I know there's certain things, but when you see the massive stick hickeys across your body, on your arms, that's where you're dead. And that's a way that you can begin on your own to fix those things and to start to realize, okay, I had a little consequence. When you get into a stick patty cake match to see who hits the other guy more times with a big mask or big helmet, actually. We call our fencing mask a mask because it's not a helmet. But the weak half thing is a helmet, and the jacket. There are times, if you're sparring realistically, where putting that kind of stuff on or putting padding on or sparring with padded sticks might work for your group. It'll, someone that doesn't really have interest in hard sparring might be able to get some of the distance, timing, those things, if you force them to behave accordingly. When it's Abanikathon 2021, like, you're doing nothing. And then you talk, and then you like shit on us for having like, oh, you spend all your time at Largo Range. Try and get closer. Come on, come closer. Try closer than Largo Range, because one of two things is going to happen. You're going to come into clinch range very quickly because no one stands at, like, if you've got an elevated sense of close behind a roof block, overwrap the arm kind of stuff, you're not going to be able to do any of that shit to me because now I've got you. Like, now I'm holding you. So try all that fancy shit you just did. Like, try that standing wrist lock takedown thing. Like,
you're doing this.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I don't even do that. I start beating your shins. I just start. That's my, if I can get your arm and you monkey trap on your own stick like that, like maybe I'll give you a couple to the head if you back out. If you're out at the end of your arm here, oh yeah, well now you're at perfect stick range. But if you're close, I just start beating your shins.
Ooh, that's painful.
It's mean. It's mean.
No,
it's like
but
getting caned across the shins.
You're fighting, right? Fighting for your life. So this is the practice in fighting for your life. That's why I'm like, it's funny because growing up, Dad used to make me work on my shins.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Condition those things.
Weights to build the that muscle, right? Especially when you get the foot, because your muscle can take a stronger beating than your bone.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're pretty much building that just to protect your bone. And if you've ever seen his legs, it's ridiculous. Like, what are you doing? Hanging upside down in a tree just by your freaking feet, just to build? Like, that's how big they are.
Yeah.
And like, realize that when you little things like that, in somebody trying to beat your shins,
Yeah.
It like the Muay Thai guys that they go and
Yeah.
like they kick the freaking tree.
The banana
That
trees.
is-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to protect yourself in a real fight
Oh
against
yeah.
anything. I mean, other than a knife, obviously, but your
Yeah.
muscle can take a little beating,
Oh
So
yeah.
it's not bad.
My
It's
poor
not bad.
shins. My poor shins from Muay Thai. I mean, the best way, Westerners will all tell you, oh, the best way to do it is to kick the bag, which is true. You can kick the bag enough, you kill all the nerves, but those Thais don't mess with that. They're like, they'll take Coke bottles, old school glass Coke bottles, because they're rigid, and rub them down their shins. Or, I mean, I've seen guys hitting with sticks and stuff like that to cause those little micro fractures and just calcify it up.
Yeah, just they're just building,
Yeah.
that thick skin.
I mean, every once we just saw Chris Weidman break his leg in the most ironic thing I've ever fucking seen in my life.
It made me think, like, you're not taking calcium, dude. You're
No.
not like
No.
you're
Well,
deficient, because how did that break on
oh, I'll tell you,
that move?
bad form, bad kicking form, because of the shape of your shin. So when Anderson did it, I was really new into Muay Thai. I've been training at North Shore Muay Thai in Beverly, Mass. That was where Pat and I were doing our classes. So when we started training Kali and Krabi at this school. The teacher was like, well, you guys are here, you might as well do Muay Thai too. So I was like, all right. But Anderson did that same break where he did the floppy leg, and the teacher explained it like, he's like, all right, take your cell phone, right? If you hit with this edge, it could take a pretty good shot. If you take it here, you're going to shatter your phone, right? And if you feel your shin, you've got a flat part and a ridge. So you need to turn your hip over to get the ridge to strike. And Anderson wasn't doing that. Because Chris Weidman hadn't been properly checking the kicks. As soon as someone starts properly checking a kick, you're like, oh, fuck, I need to throw it right because it hurts bad. Weidman wasn't doing a good job of checking. He was sort of just absorbing it. So Anderson was throwing hard. He just wasn't throwing right. And he knows better because he's a Muay Thai guy. And Anderson knew what he was doing. They were basically almost like taunting kicks. And then Chris Weidman, whether after the fact, his coach claimed that like they practiced limb destruction, and I don't think that's real. He just put his knee in there. And when you throw hard, lazy kick with bad form against knee, snappy, like it happened. Oh, it was so bad.
Oh my God, it made me so sick.
It was so bad.
Knee-jerk reaction. It was still like literally hurl. I went,
yeah.
See.
Yeah. And then just the height of irony for it to happen to Chris Weidman after the fact. And they just did a podcast together. Chris just had his first episode of his podcast, and Anderson was his guest. I know that Anderson reached out right away. That's something that people that don't fight beyond like even guys who spar or roll in class kind of understand that when you spend a good deal of time going head to head with someone, trying to get the best of them in that way, you get to know them. Like we were saying, stress in the kitchen, same thing in a fight. You get to know a person, and generally there's, even if you really don't like each other, there's usually a grudging respect, if not a downright respect.
Yeah.
And, in a world where at that point they were no longer going to be competing against each other. There was, when Anderson's leg broke, Chris Weidman was a much younger man in a different career trajectory. Anderson was at the, things were about to start getting less impressive for him. And especially with that injury, I feel like, once they were removed from the pool of like, when you get guys like Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier are going to fight in a few weeks, right? And, they showed respect, and then they didn't. And then like, they're trying to sell a fight. Like they have to be that way to the public perception. the public perception has to be that. But to see it in the case of Anderson and Chris, who they both suffered the same injury, that in and of itself, because of how freak of an injury that is. I mean, it happens. It happens when you're whipping leg kicks at one another. Once in a while, somebody's leg breaks, but not very often. And not very often in Muay Thai, because they're doing it right. Which the kicks are right and the checks are right. That's the other thing, is when your shield is right, you know, the kick is going to hurt the kicker, but it shouldn't break their leg completely. I don't know, unless you're Malapet. I've been training here under Malapet Sasaprapa a little bit, and when you touch that guy, he feels like he's made of wood. He's not very big, and he's like, he's like 40. He's not like a young guy, but he's not an old guy. He's just whatever. But yeah, when you touch him, you're like, oh, you're another thing. Like, you might not be a people. Like, good Lord.
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, you at any time, like, he decides to use you as his little training dummy, it's like the only person I've been less enthused. Actually, there's two people I'm less enthused about being the training dummy for. One is Mark, don't trust my self-control, Denny. He'll tell you. Crafty Dog will tell you, don't trust my control. Like, what does that mean? And then he hits you in the face. You're like, oh yeah, that's what he means. He's like, I told you. Like, but you didn't tell me when it was coming. And then the other one's Sled Dog, who will gleefully, intentionally, sadistically cause you little bits of pain as he's showing you things.
No, compared to when we were at the gathering of Tuhons in Chicago 2 years ago, and it was such a privilege to be with all these Tuhons that showed up and shared, and you just created this camaraderie and showed what my dad taught them, individually, and they created this focus. So we were doing Dumag, Baston Dumag.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with Uncle Phil, or Tuhon Phil, and he got me, and I was like, oh, you're so strong. I'm like, mind you, we've already been drilling like all morning, and it's been raining, so like downpour, and he's like so strong. I'm like, you're gonna dislocate every single joint out of my system right now, like, and he's like not even doing anything. And I'm like, okay, I got to build up to this man. This man's painful. But no, he had me like caught up and like, with the thing in my throat. And I'm like trying not to show any fear.
His concept of leveraging on a person. He's one of the few people that I've seen really, really pull off a lot of those kinds of moves in grapples as a man in his mid 60s, by the way. I'm kind of glad I never ran into young Sled Dog, but I kind of wish I did. Like, there's some guys from the old days that I'm like, I wonder what would have had. Like, I wonder how this would have gone.
He was very swift,
and mean, angry, angry man. Angry.
It was great to watch. To watch back then. The spars between Acme Baraka and Tom Biggio and and Tuan Phil and Tuan Bill McGrath, with everybody was super fierce. No, not really that much. They were always shirtless. Right. Always hot, and I'm like, you're gonna show your stick hickeys, literally, just butts open.
Yeah.
And they were just fierce. And I feel like the sticks were a little bit smaller then, so they were just lethal freaking switches on each other.
Yeah. And, people that think that the big sticks are worse have never really been hit with the little sticks.
They will break your skin, and I've seen it break skin. But yeah, they were all fast little quick rats. Their moves were so fast. And Dad was a little bit harsher in his training back then. That 1,000 strikes was your daily, know, and blisters and dealing with that and still fighting through and duck walk through ponds and I remember a water torture that he used to do. You gotta cry. You have to cry, and if you don't cry, you're gonna have a whole gallon of water poured on your face while you're
Oh
laying down.
no. Oh no. That's called waterboarding, and I believe
No,
that's a
no,
crime
there was
against
no board.
humanity.
There was no board.
He's
There was
just
no
pouring water
board.
on you.
I mean, in the hot realms of Rochester, New York, the water did help some people,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it didn't help them. Like, it was a very interesting. Can't
Right.
do those practices now, I'm sure,
No, advanced
but
interrogation techniques are no longer they're kind of frowned upon with regular students. To be
yeah.
honest, I might still be down for it. Like, kind of like,
No,
yeah, that is how you make somebody tough. You gotta
yeah,
torture
but
them
I,
a little
I
bit.
didn't understand the little concepts of like that, and then duck walking. Like, I
Ugh,
don't see people training in duck walk. It's hurt.
it
Everybody's knees are
hurts.
back.
Yeah,
It hurt, but
yeah,
like these guys would go through down uphill
yep.
and then down, just all kind. Dad was just like, come on, just do it. Now we don't do it as much, so it's
People
more,
are soft.
CrossFit. It's more CrossFit and
Hmm.
it, and which is great because you get cardio and you don't have people testing your liability, less
Right.
liability.
I
You
think
know?
the scientific methods of training and the more modern things of strength and conditioning and attribute training and things like that are good, but there's something to be said for being willing to put up with some fucking misery. And I read
Old
this book
school.
called American Shaolin years ago. This guy went to the Shaolin temple to learn kung fu basically, and he kind of exposed sort of what that world was like, and he did get to live there as a monk for, I think you can just go, like, you can just go show up and they're like, I guess if you want to be here, although it is kind of commercialized now, or it was then. I don't even know what it's like now, but anyway, they have this phrase that translates to eating bitter. Like, this guy kind of sucked at everything that he tried, but they said that they respected him because he was willing to eat bitter. He was willing to
Hmm,
put up with the sucky parts of stuff. Like
that-
hit each of these new sort of initiates had to pick an iron body part, and he picked like iron palm or whatever. So he just smacking his hand on a fucking stone all day or whatever his thing was. And they would say, he's shit at kung fu, but the guy's willing to eat bitter. And
that's
that's something I think that a lot of Americans are not willing to do. And it's part of why I think a lot of sports like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, if you're training them hard and honestly, they weed out a lot of the douchebags. And depending on how you train, unfortunately, there's a specific type of douchebag that's going to be willing to take the punishment too, so that later on they can give it back out. But there'll always
yeah.
be those guys. You can't get rid of those guys other than hit them with a stick when we get the
No, but you know
opportunity.
what? I like the verb that propels people to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Because
But
it's not easy.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But
That that
the drive to come back and keep training under someone that's going to put you through that too is something that a lot of people don't have. They're like, fuck that guy, I'm not going back there, have this crazy old man make me swing 1,000 times and my hands are bleeding and he pours water on my face because I won't cry. I cry at home in the shower like everybody
no, like
else. Like, no, you will cry now.
when I left Cebu, I just did 9 hours of a tattoo. Um, and the next day was meeting. That evening, I met with my dad, and he was like, "Okay, be ready." It was day one of training. Um, we were in the pool for 4 hours.
With a brand new tattoo. Oh, which they tell you don't do that in the
Yeah,
Philippines.
in the Philippines.
In the Philippines.
So we
Yep.
did 1,000 strikes in the pool
Nice.
for 4 hours. Then we had a break, and then came back, and Dad had a lecture, used me as a demo, and he had the biggest watch on his hand, and he was doing disarms with
Oh
me.
no.
So not only was my arm raw from the day before and 4 hours of the pool, but he was doing disarms to where his watch was scraping
Down
along
your arm. Yep.
down my
man.
arm.
Oh man.
And I'm like, oh my God, my ink, my ink. That's all I'm
You're gonna have just a big track right
and
through.
I couldn't do anything because, it's humid. So I couldn't,
Yeah.
no matter what, you can't do anything.
Mm-mm.
So all I did was just put some like Egyptian mass salve like every day. But his watch was scraping so hard.
That must have
And
hurt.
I was grimacing and I was just like, oh, and it wasn't grimacing, it was painful. And I'm used to that. But it was like the 9 hours of work this man put on my arm for permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was like grimacing. And I was like,
Yeah, if that poor tattoo artist.
Yeah.
If that poor tattoo artist knew.
No, he did. I called him the
did.
next day.
Okay.
I called him the next day in my broken Tagalog that so this is what my dad did. And he goes, Oh, next time we go after your training.
Yeah. That might have been a good call. It might have.
Yeah. But I'm glad
funny.
I got the tattoo before, because if I would have booked later, I would have been stuck in the Philippines throughout COVID.
During COVID. Oh yeah. Okay.
So
maybe your timing was just
well.
right.
Great story to tell.
Yeah. Not that I'm sure visiting the Philippines, I'm sure is great, but being stuck there when you didn't want to be for like a year and a half would have been an issue. Actually, even still, right? They can't come over here yet, can they?
Immigration said that they opened on June 6th, but the consulate has booked appointments, because you can only go to appointments only, and you have to have a Philippine passport to go in. So and you can't, they're not allowing people to leave yet unless they have an American passport.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get my dual citizenship just so I can go and see Dad this year to go in, but to get an appointment is really difficult at the consulate. Right. So
yeah, it seems like everything's so backed up.
I think it's really gonna take at least another year to be able to kind of catch up to normal. Not sure about what's gonna happen as far as the conventions in March, in end of February, March, because you have the PTK normal convention usually at the end of February, and then you have the PTK, the Kali Eskrima Arnis Association conference in March. Then you've got the World Federation PTK World Federation Tribal Camp, the mid-March. So like a ton of people from all over the world that go in that little slot time. So hopefully things get cleared for them.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of stuff is getting back to normal. California's pretty much open. They're still
in Atlanta. They're saying like only 49% of people are getting like their first vaccine. And so it was weird because Kamala Harris came into town yesterday here in Atlanta and was to encourage people to get vaccinated. Because people are like, oh, my mother died and my brother died. And I was like, did you get the vaccine? Then, they asked, did you get the vaccine? It's like, well, they're very straightforward. Well, you're going to join them. So that's what's the gatherings in California, but gatherings here in Atlanta are open. Like, there's no issues. They're just going to accept it if no one wants to get vaccinated. So, and they're just still open. You have to wear masks, so whatever it is, I'm vaccinated, so I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I won't like push anything too much, but if your best excuse for why you're not getting vaccinated is shit you heard on Facebook, like, no, I can't help you. And you know what? Cool. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's fine. I mean,
medically, in my, there's people, they've had to convince me, and I've had to look in our history, right? We've all had vaccines because you've had to, right? and people have died to get to this level to be vaccinated.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you go alongside, it was really hard because I waited, with my kids to be vaccinated because I
Right.
wanted to see one was on time and the other one was good. Paused. So it made a huge difference, and but that's a little small case study, and that's a person.
Right. Yeah.
So, it is what it is, and people are going to do events regardless, and
Oh yeah.
but they're not going to allow you to go anywhere if you don't get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Outside.
I mean, I highly encourage people that, have crazy conspiracy theories about this stuff to actually research polio. Because polio was less deadly than coronavirus. And then the people that got all, that had various other physical ailments was like an even smaller number. It was a much smaller number, and there was like way worse side effects from the fucking polio vaccine. But my parents' generation have a little scar from getting that vaccine, so I don't.
That's
you know
me.
What I mean? So yeah.
I don't know where my scar went anymore, but I remember.
I mean, it healed up for a lot of people, but you could still see that little mark. But then, like by the 80s, we didn't have to do that anymore. But anyway,
not really. So
I mean, I can't. The people that really crack me up is the ones that pretend that like all the scientists. I live with a medical lab scientist. We sleep in the same bed, right? We didn't get some sort of a kickback for her to lie about how science works. If we did, trust me, we wouldn't live in fucking Fresno right now. We'd live someplace else and commute to work. But
my mother-in-law runs Grady, which was an AIDS research hospital. Then during COVID switched to a full COVID hospital. So her communicating with us about the importance of getting the vaccine and being directly in the realm of the whole thing, it made me feel better about doing it because of pausing it. You don't know the effects yet because it was so quick. All that fear came about, but when it comes down to it, it was like, government don't give a shit about you. If they wanted to know about you, they have your phone, they have your computer, all these things. They're not trying to be, what was it? Somebody said a zombie like injection thing with
some kind of mind control.
Yeah, like
nanobots.
And it had to do with 5G nanobots, and then the 5G would control you.
Yeah,
the government don't give a crap about
the magnetic. Where's the magnet? Where's the magnet? Like, guys, come on. Let's be.
So, and then you got
here.
the religious. You not downplaying any kind of religion, and then the mark of the beast, and like all these things coming from, like, they're gonna know your number. They already know your number. They gave you a number when you were born. It's called your social security.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have one. You probably do anyway, because you got to put it on a lot of stuff. Yeah, you've already got a number. Sorry. Code. Yeah, yeah. We already signed that contract, unfortunately, a long fucking time ago.
Yeah. So and it's about living life now and enjoying, because COVID, there was so much loss that now, even throughout COVID, we were still going out and we're still training, and everybody was just trying to, be conscious of it.
Do your best. Yeah.
Don't spit and sweat on me while we're training. Let's create distance. We could still be out in the open, and if you want to wear your mask, great. You're going to be tested. There's facilities to be tested around the corner. It's just being proactive, right? Because you want to be safe. But it shouldn't stop you from going and wanting to do training and going to do all the things that you want to do. The quality of life is just a little bit more boundaries. Now that it's open up, enjoy life, be good to people, stay positive, and just learn how to cut them if they piss you off.
Just learn how to cut them. Like, if you gotta cut somebody, I mean, just sometimes you just gotta cut somebody. I don't know. Just be ready. There's nobody even here, and I was ready to cut somebody.
I started looking at throwing knives because I saw this chick on TikTok, and she had like 10 throwing darts, and how she was performing and just how she threw them. I'm like, I could stick all those in my hair. Well, no, I don't have hair now, but stick them somewhere and then throw them. So that was the one thing I wanted to see if I could find at the Blade show, which I missed. Yeah, I missed
Yeah,
the
but
Blade show because I had surgery the day before, and I traveled that weekend. And my mother-in-law was like, "You ain't going nowhere. You're gonna go to a public place." And yeah. And I was like, okay.
there's
I
a
couldn't
lot of
move.
cool people at Blade Show, but there's a lot of grimy people at Blade Show.
Yeah,
If
it
I just
wasn't
had
about the.
surgery, I wouldn't want to be around them either. You might as well stay
I
in the
just
hospital.
wanted to go. I was so excited to pick up some blades.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about at
I
that
think
point.
they do a West. They do Blade Show West in maybe
Yeah.
October.
I mean,
or
I
something,
went. I went to the one in 2020, the end of the year, and it was a little it was too small, and the knives were like literally $1,000 each just for the like I'm like, I'm not gonna pay that, but I did pay for a really nice 12-inch chef knife that was like $400 by Atomic
Excellent.
Punk. Yeah, so
Excellent.
yeah, Atomic Punk made that blade, and I said, okay, I'm coming with designs once everything opens up because I like his work, and Meglio knives are beautiful too. They're his chef knives.
You said
They're
Atomic Punk. Is that does he have like an Instagram or anything like
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah. He's a local guy. Does it for as a hobby, and he started making switchblades, which are beautiful with the reverse blade on top, which is my favorite kind of knife.
Excellent.
No wasted moves if you got to go in and out.
Right.
Cut up, cut down, and then cut up. So great for deboning.
Deboning. Yes.
Boning, yeah. Whatever protein you decide to like slice.
Wow. I don't think I've ever referred to people as a protein, but I might from now on.
I call it
slicing protein.
in culinary. It's called fabrication, right? When you
That's right.
fabricate protein,
Fabricating
right?
protein.
Yeah, I was like, this is how you fabricate a human. You just learn how to, know where the arteries and where
The
the veins are.
other white meat. The other white meat.
the other white meat, the other dark meat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's pretty funny. Yeah, processing people. That's essentially what, when people come to me and they want to, I've had people reach out to me through the internet that I didn't necessarily know already that were interested in learning some knife stuff. And usually I'll direct them just to Libre. I'm like, Scott Babb is there, man. Like, if you want to learn about folding knives and stuff, it's right there. If someone trains stick stuff with me, I'm happy to teach them knife in a dueling sense, like, Pikiti stuff and things like that. But I'm not teaching people how to defeat anti-knife, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to stop me from stabbing you, but I know the tricks to, like, well, that's part of sort of what we do in Dog Brothers, when the knives get deployed. So yeah, no, I have that skill set, but I'm not like showing it out into the world like that. But one thing that I always tell people, I'm like, it's not hard to learn how to use a knife. Number one, learn anatomy. Take a first responder class, like all the things that are a problem, like, we need to stop this from happening. Well, yeah, make that happen. Like, make that happen. It's not that hard. People are fragile. We're tough, but we're fragile. And then the other thing I tell people is cut meat. Like, cut some meat, feel what that feels like. And it's easy. It's obviously, we have much more complicated things than just that, but yeah, poke, always pull it out.
The thing is like that's why I don't like switchblades with teeth.
I don't I don't
Yeah.
almost ever mess with knives with serrations at all anymore because they're hard.
You can't pull them out. Like
Yeah.
just consciously, I know it'll get caught on something on the way out. So, I mean, it's great for like wilderness stuff,
Mhm.
as far as that's concerned. But I like a smooth blade, both, not full double bladed, but like super,
The top
super.
swedge sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. I think serrations are good for real specific things, right? Like in the kitchen, a bread knife.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
want serrations on your bread knife. How much of a
Yeah.
pain in the ass is it to keep that sharp though? Real pain in the ass to sharpen a bread knife.
I just
Individual.
tend to pull the blade to sharpen. I'm not even gonna try to even bother with
Yeah.
doing my serrated. But that getting cut by that is deadly. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh
no.
yeah. Even thinking about an action, I cut myself with one recently, and it hurt a
recently?
lot. Yeah, right on the finger, right on my index finger. But it's also good for things like you said, outdoor stuff like cutting rope.
Yeah.
It's good for cutting rope. But then it kind of becomes trash at anything you want a smooth cut for because it's teeth. You know what I mean? There's different styles of serrations, kind of scalloped ones versus more sawtooth where they're kind of offset, or Cutco knives they have a proprietary one that's actually, it's a blade, a blade, a blade. So you can't even sharpen it. You have to send them these knives to sharpen. I guess unless you had a little file and you were going to individually sharpen each surface. But like that, they patented that. They patented that style of.
Who is this?
Cutco knives. Yeah, when I was a teenager or early graduate of high school, I got sucked into selling those stupid things for a minute. People, they do like it's not like a cold call. You're not allowed to cold call people. You have to kind of build a little referral system and go out from there. It's their little multi-level marketing nonsense that they do, where they have like somebody's in charge of the region. But the knives are actually great. I think way back in the day when I did that and I was like a teenager, I think my mom staked me on it. So when I quit doing it, I gave her my whole knife set. So my mom's got all the knives, but I have at least one or two in my drawer still. I mean, they're 20 years old at this point, but they work.
Well, the other day I met with Chris Caban, Hog Mountain. What was it? Hog Mountain Tactical. He and basically one of the very few guys, and along with, I think his name is Michael Smith. I didn't meet him personally yet, but it's the local colleague group that comes around in Atlanta. So he came by and he was like, "Oh, I have some Gunnan things and some Taliban trainers for you." So he was like,
Cool.
"Here, play with them while you're there. These are prototypes." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Thank you for the toys." So he brought me some, and we're gonna train with him next Sunday, not this Father's Day, but next Sunday. And there's teenagers and some kids in his group, which my teenager is depleted in any social interactions with.
I'm sure it'll be nice.
Age group, so I'm gonna throw him in. I was like, "Be down to spar." Chris is gonna bring gear, and we're gonna just do a nice light sparring and stuff. And I invited Jer to join.
Nice, excellent.
Because we know him.
That'll be fun.
Jer's actually making me another whip so that I can really practice. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm gonna try to see if I can get in there and work it more.
I'm kind of I was not sold on the flexible weapons until recently, and I just started messing with the rope dart and the meteor hammer kind of stuff. But the whip is one. You guys are nuts. You guys are nuts with the whip.
On my 9-year-old does it really well, and she does this like stomp when she does it, and then just now and then what's his dog name? Michael. The crazy
Omega
dog. He's just like, he's just so good at it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you got to teach me because like knowing where the whip is gonna land, I have to wear my helmet when I do my whip because I've
Yeah.
literally made marks
Yeah.
all along my neck and face because I don't know where the whip is coming
Mhm.
from.
So the foxhound thing comes from when I dropped out of college. I worked on a fox hunt. It's a very English thing. But I took care of these. I took care of hunting hounds, and you use the crack of a whip and then the call of a horn to direct the hounds when they're running in the field. So I got to learn how to use a whip a long time ago. And Michael is fucking nasty at it.
Oh,
He
he's so
got good by he built this target. It's like a
yeah.
cross thing with
Yeah.
clips.
And
Yeah.
he puts pasta
Yeah,
on it
to
and
break
to
it with the
snap
whip.
it. And but like I'll try it and I'm like, there's that distance gauging again
Mhm.
where I'm like, I have no idea where my whip is like gonna hit. So we try it, we test it out, and then like I practice at home with on the branches,
Mhm.
the little leaves branch because it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah, you could
that's
pick
the
out a
only way
leaf.
you can get. Yeah. So that's definitely a skill that takes a lot of understanding and practice because it's momentum and
Right.
you know and yeah, he does this crazy behind the and then whips it and it's like pop pop pop
Oh
pop
yeah.
pop and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I want to get to that point.
His control of his body and his creativity in the way that he moves and he fights is it's very, very unique. The people don't. I remember when he first kind of showed up. He doesn't use this idiom all the time anymore, but he had this funny thing he would do where he had this long range thrust that he would just nail you with and it would whip your head
Oh
back.
yeah, because it goes
Just
directly, so like
it's
you
moving
can
on a
tell the
straight line.
distance.
It's
Yeah,
hard to
like
see when
it's
stuff
so
comes like that.
crazy because when he sees you like this, right?
Yeah.
And then he'll go like that and he'll turn because you can't see how far
Where
that
it's changing. Yeah.
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 And
No,
that's
it's
brilliant.
he's one of the guys, he's a jujitsu black belt. He's,
He's
accomplished striker. He's a tough all around guy. But when you fight with him, like the way he makes it fun, like he makes it play no matter what, even if it's really intense. Whereas some people can't do that. Like it's like a murder
got
show
such
until it's
great
over.
control. He's got great
Yeah.
control and consideration.
Mm-hmm.
His
Mm-hmm.
his consideration when you're fighting and he sees it, he'll like push
Right.
and encourage you
Right.
because it's not ultimately it's not like to the battle, it's to
Right.
test your skills. And he has so much respect for the fighters to push him, and he's like this, he's so solid. Like I think he's like really heavy, but
Yeah.
like you just grapple with him and I'm like, oh no, I'm dead because he's just like choking on. He's like, Jade, make sure you grab it,
Yeah.
and then
He'll
you
tell you
feel
what you're
his
doing wrong.
arm.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Feel his arm, and it's like it's all solid, like muscle, and he's so crazy strong, pulling like a tire and chain, and like
One time somebody that was at the gathering to watch goes, "Why do you let that one guy wear shoulder pads?" And we were like, "What the
that's
fuck are you
not
talking about?" They were like, "No, that guy, that guy. Why is he wearing shoulder pads?" And when we looked over, and it was like, "Oh, that's hey, Michael, like, take off your shirt." And he had like a wife beater or something on underneath. He took off his shirt, and you could just see like his deltoids because he doesn't have like
arms,
huge arms. It's
but his
just
deltoid.
yeah. And they were like, "Oh, Jesus!" And like, I mean, I think he's the biggest Filipino I know, aside from a couple of guys that are big boys. But he's pretty goddamn big.
Pretty
He's
big.
pretty big.
But I mean, it's funny. It's funny
Oh
because
yeah.
when he wore a shirt, I was like, "What the heck are those things?" And
Yeah,
yeah, those.
That's his deltoids. Yeah, he's a beast. And actually, it's funny because you mentioned he and Jay are in the whips. Were you there? I don't remember if it was the first day or the second day when they did the blindfolded whip fight. they were trying to echolocate each other based on the snap of the whip and how
I don't
like
know if that
figuring
was.
out how far the other guy would have to be from it.
Oh no, that's
Yeah,
scary.
you didn't see that. Yeah. So the two of them put on blindfolds and then their
No.
fencing masks, and they had a general idea of where the other one started. And it was interesting because Jer immediately dropped to his knees. He immediately changed levels. So he was like, well, now I won't be where he thinks I am anymore. Oh,
Right.
it's very cool. I just started
Oh,
watching that
that's
show
so cool.
with Jason Momoa. It's on
Uh-huh.
Apple TV. And the concept is that there was like a war or something, and all of humanity went blind. And then for generations, all babies are born blind. And then some children are born who can see. That's not ruining anything. I highly recommend watching the show. But Momoa is the leader of this group of basically blind hunter-gatherers. But they're hunter-gatherers in the ruins of civilization. So they have steel, and they have certain things, and there's some stuff that's still around, but they're moving around in like the remains of the world, but none of them can see it.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's fights, there's combat, and there's a massed battle like right off the bat. Like they knew they had to sell this fucking thing right away. They're like, all right, everybody's blind, and it's like it is a little funny, like in kind of a sick way, because they're like kind of leading each other around. And then but especially if you've ever done any kind of a masked, like a melee kind of fight or anything like that, the tension of the two groups coming together like as quietly as they can, because the only way you're going to know where your opponent is either touching him or hearing him.
That's
And
crazy.
like, yeah, there's a bunch of, I don't want to like ruin any of the stuff, because it's very like watching the way that they choreograph the fighting. Some of it is like, okay, there's just a fucking regular fight coordinator who's pretending everyone's blind.
That would be funny to do that at the gathering.
A blind fight, yeah. Well, that could happen.
No weapons.
We just gotta bring
No
it up.
weapons. No weapons.
Oh, see, that's where it gets crazy, is when there's weapons. Like, what was that movie? The Snowpiercer movie with the train. You ever see that one? It goes through the tunnel, and they have the axe fight in the dark. Ah, that is so fucking scary. The concept of it's completely pitch black in there, because who cares who's on your fucking team at that point? Like, you're just trying not to die. You get turned around so fast in that kind of a situation that the possibility of getting clobbered by your own teammate or stabbed in the back by somebody when you get turned around. Oh. But the C show is very cool. They did some really neat stuff. Jason Momoa is a really inspiring guy if you're into that, like, getting fired up and watching, some action movie shit. He's very athletic, he's very charismatic, and
not
the other
watch.
What's that? I mean, yeah. There's that. I mean,
inspired.
I'm pretty straight, but even I'm like, Momoa ain't bad. He's a good looking man.
You gotta recognize the beast, like,
you can't. Yeah, you can't be a hater in that case. Like,
can't be a hater.
Too many people. Even if like you wanna, who did I tell? I was like messing around with somebody. We did a camp up at Kaju Dog's place, and we were sitting around a fire at night, and there was several women there, and I said something about, yeah, he's a big dirty hippie though. I've heard he smells bad. And they like, what? Like, there was like a visual disappointment, and I was totally making that shit up. I'm sure the guy probably smells like rose water. I don't know. That's a guy that just got a good hand. But I was like, oh yeah, I heard he stinks. People were like, oh really? Yeah,
That's
dirty hippies. A total skateboarder.
That's just called pheromones.
Yeah, it's the kind that doesn't.
It only stinks to people that it's not supposed to attract. It's a repellent for those. I'm like,
touche.
Hey, I could smell the pheromones from here. I'm okay.
Touche. Well, no, I think with our love of Jason Momoa, we might wrap this thing up. Got got some stuff on the agenda for the rest of my day here. But Jade, thank you so much for coming on here today and hanging
Thank
out with me
you
a little
for
bit.
inviting me. It's a natural banter whenever we talk, and it's really nice. You have great
Yeah, for sure.
energy.
I
I love
appreciate
your
that.
verve in life and everything that you do for the arts and your continued education into it. I don't think we'll ever stop being
No,
students ever.
for sure.
So,
I subscribe
yeah.
strongly to the dog brother ethos of walk as a warrior for all your days, and that's what it's all about, I think.
Well, I will be seeing you at more events.
Absolutely.
If definitely everybody allows me to, I will definitely be there and work hard because at one day my goal is to possibly, hopefully, earn a bitch status.
I don't see that as a problem if that's what you want.
Yeah, I don't.
For
Yeah,
sure.
it's a nice little goal. I love the camaraderie of everybody in it, and I wouldn't mind having a slew of people to call upon if society breaks down.
Yeah, that's also
Right.
something I've thought about in my life. It's
Dog
like,
brothers
ooh,
are definitely those I would
yeah,
definitely don't won't hesitate to call upon. So
hell yeah.
I appreciate
When the
it.
shit hits the fan, call your local dog brother.
Yeah, hi, EB Society. Thank you so much. This is fun.
Thank you again,
Much
Jade.
of luck. Maraming salamat.
Same. Thank you.